855 Code. Today we will be doing another beginner JavaScript tutorial, and this time we will be teaching you how to make a basic game. It's going to be a game that mimics Pong, so basically there will be something that will replicate a ball, and you will have a paddle, and you have to keep this ball from escaping the bottom of the screen. And as said in the title, this will be a pure JavaScript tutorial, so you don't really need to do any HTML, any CSS. We're going to be building everything using JavaScript and DOM manipulation through JavaScript. So if you're not familiar with DOM manipulation, which is basically how to add and change elements in the document using JavaScript, you'd probably want to read up a bit on that beforehand. But as long as you know those basic concepts, then we're going to help you through everything. And if you wait till the very end, you will see why doing this in pure JavaScript is so cool and what we can do with this. So I hope you like this video, and let's get started. So as I said, we don't need any HTML except for this boilerplate code that we get here when we start, and we don't need any CSS, so let's move these aside, and we're just going to be using JavaScript. So to get started, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add our ball into the game, and our ball will just be a square actually, and this square we'll just call it ball. Okay, and this ball we'll add it by adding an element to the document. So that's document.createElement, and it's just going to be a div. Okay, so I'm assuming that you know what a div is. If not, you could just copy these parts of the code and follow along when we get to the actual JavaScript functions and stuff like that. And the second thing that we're going to need to do to actually make our ball appear is add it to the body, and we're going to do that by appending child ball. Okay, so now technically our ball should exist, but if we run our code, we don't see it. Why is that? Because this div doesn't have any dimensions, so we need to add styles to it. So let's just comment here ball styles, and in a regular project, you might choose to use CSS for this and HTML. You probably wouldn't do everything completely in JavaScript, but as promised, this will be only JavaScript, and it has its advantages, as you'll see at the surprise in the end. So let's just add pixel.styles, and first thing we'll change is the background color. And notice that it uses camel casing here and not how you'd usually write your styles in CSS with a dash. And let's just color it black so we can see it easily. And now let's give it a height and a width so that it actually shows up. So we need to put this into quotation marks, and we'll just make it 10 pixels. And so here we kind of hard-coded it as 10 pixels, 10 pixels. What most people recommend doing is, instead of doing that, is declaring some constants here on the top. So let's say const ball height, okay, and making that 10 pixels. And then instead of doing that here, we could call here, let's say, ball height. And you'll see that it works pretty much the same way. Pixel's not defined, sorry, I called it pixel here, but this is actually called ball. And let's try running that again. Great, so we have our ball. And I'll just do the same here for And basically what this does is that now we can, anytime that we need to use this ball width and ball height, we can use it in our code, and then if we want to change it at any point, it'll be a lot easier if we have it as one constant on the outside. Let's say I decide, okay, now I want to change this to 15, done. And here we only used it once in our code, but as you'll see, we'll probably need to use these numbers later on as well. So let's add some more styling to our ball. And now you can see that it is, it's positioned at 0, 0, but if I console, let's console the pixel.style position. Sorry, let's just console top. And keep on calling it pixel, sorry. So nothing comes back. So we're going to want to give some values here because we're going to be manipulating them later on, and it's going to be hard to do that if they don't have default values. So it's going to be ball.style, and that will be, we'll tell it to be position absolute. And top will be equal to 0, and left will be also equal to 0. So this won't change anything visually, but later on this will be useful for us. Okay, it popped it up a bit there to the upper right corner, right? Because our body has a margin, so we didn't really, so it was kind of a little lower down. And great, so now what we want to do is start to add some functionality to our ball. So this ball will have some movement, and for now, let's say we want this ball to move down at a certain pace. So when our game starts, the ball will be moving. So we're going to do that by setting an interval. Set interval basically takes a function, and it executes that function every X amount of time. And this is measured here in milliseconds. So let's put 1,000 here. And now we can tell it what we want to do. So what do we actually want to do here? So we want to change this part of our styling, right? Because now it's basically at 0, 0, and we want this ball to move down. That means we need to add pixels to top, okay? And the way we're going to do that is we'll just say, the way we're going to do that is by using a constant, and let's call that constant ball y position, okay, and that is going to start off equaling to 0. And we're going to set ball dot style top, and that will be equal to ball y position, okay, and then we are going to add ball y position, let's say plus plus, okay, so this should add 1 to ball y position and be moving our ball accordingly. So let's test out our code. Okay, assignment to constant variable. So we're changing the variable ball. So let's use let here instead. Let's try that again. and nothing is happening. So let's add a console.log here. And to be honest, I know what the problem is, but I am showing you debugging, which is a very important part of coding. And let's check the value of this each time that we make our change. So let's run the code. And we see it's constantly 0 pixels. So it's not changing. And what we can see here, one thing that might be the problem is that here we gave a number value to ball Y position, but since this is a style, it needs to have pixel. So basically we're going to want to add this pixel denominator at the end. And now let's try running that one more time. 0 pixel, 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 3 pixel, and our ball is moving down. Okay, we still have lots of problems. Okay, it's moving very slowly. So let's try speeding that up a bit. And try again. Okay, still not so fast. So I don't want this set interval to run too frequently because that puts a lot of strain on our computer and our browser. So to try and speed it up a little more, let's add more pixels instead of doing plus plus. So let's just do here plus equals 2. Let's see how that runs. And it's a little faster. Let's make that 3. Okay, it's running a little faster. I'll make this run a little faster here. So let's set that to 500. Okay, and now it's running at a pretty decent speed. You can change that around if you want. You could bring this down to 100, and it probably shouldn't give you any problems. And here we get a pretty smooth ball going down. So let's tackle our next problem, which is that this ball, it goes down indefinitely, and it never stops. So how do we make our ball stop? So basically what we're going to want to do is add an if condition in here. And what we're going to want to measure in this if condition is if this ball is lower than the bottom of our window. And the simple way to get the size of the window is using something called window dot inner width and inner height. So let's declare 2 more constants up here on top, and we'll call it max x, and we're going to declare another one called max y, because we're going to need both for later on. And the max x will be equal to window dot inner width, okay, because x is right to left, and our max y will be equal to window dot inner height, sorry. And down here in our if statement, I'm just going to save our progress here, and down here in our if statement, what we're going to basically do is check if ball y position is smaller than, if it's bigger than max y. Okay, that means it went beyond the bottom of the screen. Sorry, my bad. If it's smaller than max y, then we'll execute what we did before, right? And if it's bigger, so let's add an else here, then we want the ball to go the other way. So we'll do ball.style top. Okay, it'll still be equal to ball y position plus pixel. Okay, this logic doesn't change here. The only thing that's going to change is this ball y position. And instead of adding 3, we are going to remove 3. Okay, and now let's just test out our code. I'm going to make the window a little smaller, and let's run. Okay, so our ball is going down, and we hit the bottom, and Okay, so it's half working. The ball hit the bottom, and now it's not going past the bottom, but it seems to be going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. So basically what's happening is that the ball is reaching the bottom, it hits the else statement, right? It takes off 3, and now the position is smaller, so it repeats and goes to this part of the if statement and back and forth. So basically what we want to do is we want this ball to completely change direction when it hits the bottom. So to do that, we're going to need another variable, and let's call that ball direction, and this is going to be changing, so that's why I'm using let here, and that's going to be equal to down to start with, right? Because that's the direction the ball will be going when we start the game. And basically what we want to do is put another condition in here. So to add another condition to an if statement, we use and the second condition that's going to be here is that ball direction is equal to down. Okay? If it's not equal to down, then it'll do this, okay, which is ball direction equals up, and then the ball style as before. Okay, so let's test out our code again. Okay, we're hitting down, 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 hit the bottom, boom, up. Amazing. We changed direction, but we have a problem that the ball is escaping from the top. So basically what we need to do is now add another border on top using the same logic here. So let's add in another if statement. And this is basically going to be the opposite of what we have here. So if ball y position is bigger than 0, okay, then okay, so because I don't want the code to get too complicated here, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this condition for ball direction, and we're going to put another if statement to wrap around what we're about to do now. So I'm going to take another if statement out here. So this is for all this code that we have now is for when the ball is going down. Okay? And we can get rid of this and. So all this is going to happen when the ball is going down. Okay? And now let's have a completely different set of conditions for if the ball is going up. Okay? And since we only have 2 options, we can use else here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create another if statement. And here we're going to have basically the reverse of what we had before. So if ball y position is bigger than, so this is, remember, this is when ball direction is up. So if it's bigger than 0, what we're going to be doing is, so I'm going to copy actually the code that we have here. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is ball position equals minus equal 3. Okay, and this is because we're currently in the up direction. And as long as it's bigger than 0, we want to continue going up. But in the other case, okay, which is basically the case where we hit the wall. So here what we want to do is first thing, we want to change ball direction to down. Okay, and then we want to basically start going in the other direction, okay, which would be +3. So let's test out our code. Who knows, maybe we have some bugs here. So let's run that, and we have it going down. Boom, hits the bottom, heads back up, boom, down. Okay, so you'll see that we have a slight problem that the ball kind of dips below the line here, and that has to do with the height of our div, because we're measuring everything from the top of the div. If this was the only functionality we wanted, I would fix this right now. But since we're going to also have a paddle here on the bottom, we're going to deal with that towards the end. So let's move on to the next step, which is basically to get our ball to move on the x-axis, because it's no fun if we just have a ball that goes up and down on the y-axis. That's not a very hard game. Okay, so let's add all of this functionality for the x-axis as well. So I'm just going to make a comment up here. This is going to be move ball up, down. Okay, that's all the code here. And for here, this is going to be move ball right, left. So let's first check that we have all of the constants that we need here. So here I see that we have ball direction, okay, and this is actually not so great because we're going to need a ball direction for the x-axis as well. So let's change this to ball y direction, and now it's down. We're going to need to change that here in our code as well so that our code does not break. So this will be ball y direction, this will be ball y direction, and this will be ball y direction. Excellent. And now we're going to create two more variables. So this is going to be ball x direction, and we'll start it off with right, okay, because that's going to be the direction that it's moving in initially. And we'll have here ball x position, and that'll also start off with 0. Okay, and basically what we want to do is do the same thing for right and left. So what I'm going to do is actually copy the code, which means that we might have some bugs, but we'll deal with them. And I'm just going to change the logic from top to bottom to right to left. So, okay, so if this is all going to want to be x. So everywhere that it says y, let's start off with changing to x. And I find this quicker than retyping all the code, but if you're a really fast typer and you want to type everything from 0, then be my guest. It's definitely good practice. Excellent. So we changed everything to x, and now we just need to change some of the other logic. So this, instead of being down, it's going to be right. And ball style top is going to be ball style left. And now when I'm changing this, I realize that we haven't, have we declared that? Yes. Okay, we changed that here up top, so we're good. And now this is x, excellent. And here we're going to also change it to left. And this needs to be left. Okay, up is right. Okay, just according to the same logic, changing everything around. Top is left, and down is right. Okay, so let's check out our code. S is not defined. Let's see, at 74. Okay, let's see, 25. Okay, let's see, where are we calling something that is S? Assume that it's in the new code. Let's check up here. right? S, okay, right here. Just typo in there, and excellent. So you see our ball is working. And let's make sure that it hits that wall and comes back. No. Okay, so you see it hits the right wall and then it's not returning. So let's take a look at our code here. Excellent. So let's see. So if it's smaller than max x, then our ball will continue moving to the left. If it is bigger than max x, then okay, so this we're going to want to choose to left. Okay, and let's try running our code again. Top works, right works, bottom works, and now let's just let it get to the other side and make sure that works as well. Amazing. Okay, so we have working code for the ball. And now basically what we need to do is add in our paddle. Okay, so let's create our paddle here. And the paddle is basically what we're going to use to hit the ball and prevent it from hitting the bottom. And we're creating it in the same way that we created our ball. Okay, and here we want to give styles. These will be the paddle styles. And they're actually going to be quite similar to the ball styles. So let's copy this over here. Okay, and here I'll just add 2 more constants, and this is going to be paddle instead of ball. And so our paddle will be the same height as the ball, but it'll actually be wider so that we can actually use it. And this will also change as well to paddle. And in terms of the starting point, so we actually don't want it to start at the top left. We want it to start at the bottom. So the way we're going to start at the bottom is by using our max x and max y coordinates. So if we want it to be at the very bottom, then this is going to need to be max y. But we actually don't want it to start at the very bottom. We want it to end at the very bottom. So this is going to be max y minus paddle height. Okay, and then in terms of left, we don't want to start it at the very left. We kind of want to start it at the very middle. So let's call this max x divided by 2. Okay, that should give us basically the middle. And in terms of color, let's make it blue, just so it's a little different than our ball. And let's run our code. So as you can see, we have a paddle that's jumping around, and that is because I added these to the ball instead of paddle. So these all need to be paddle. So I'm just going to copy this and change these around. Whoops. Okay, I'm making a mess here. Excellent. So let's run this code now, and we see that our paddle is in completely the wrong place. So let's try and figure out why that is. So max y should be the inner height, top. Okay, let's see what happens if we just do max y here. Let's run that code, and we don't see that that moves at all. And we didn't add the pixels. Okay, so this is, because these are not 0, okay, so let's return everything as it was. When the value is 0, so it doesn't need the pixel denominator, but here we do. Okay, and here as well we're going to need pixels. So let's try that out again. Okay, so now we got the correct positioning on the x-axis, but on the y-axis we're still not doing so well. So let's console this value here, and let's see what that's equal. Sorry. Okay. So we're not getting anything here. So let's try to console this value. Try and see where our problem is coming from. Null. Okay, so why is that happening? So let's check out again. Max y and paddle height. Okay, so one of these values is in pixels while the other one is not. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take all the pixel values off of these heights. And we're going to add those in later on to make these values even more flexible. Excellent. And now let's add, this is going to be plus pixel plus pixel. And now let's try our code again. Okay, so we have our ball, but we do not have our paddle. Let's take a look again at why that might be, because we did not add our pixel here. So we actually did not give it any kind of excellent. Try again. Boom. Okay, we see our paddle right here in the middle, and it's a little off to the right. So what I'm actually going to do here is let's do max x divided by 2, but we'll actually do max x minus the width of the paddle. So let's do here paddle width. And let's divide it by 2, and let's see how that does for us, and boom. Okay, we're right in the middle. So we have our paddle, and now what we need to do is make our paddle move. So what we're going to do here is we are going to add a event listener, and this is going to be attached to the entire body of our, this is going to be attached to the document. And basically it's going to listen for any time that we have a key down, because we're going to basically use the arrow keys to move our paddle. Okay, and this is going to execute a function, and it's going to listen for an event, which is the key down event. And great, so let's console event.key, and this is basically just a test. I want to see what the keys are called. So when I press a certain key, what it's called. So if I press, so it's important when you're testing out, make sure to click and focus here on the window. And you can see here I was pressing arrow right, and I got here, I'm going to take off this console.log. I'm going to take this off so that we can actually see what's going on in our console. And I have it somewhere else, I guess, here. Okay, let's try that again. Great. Okay, so we have a clean console now, and now you can see that when I press the right arrow, I get arrow right, left, arrow left. And basically now it's just down to making a very simple if statement. So if event.key equals arrow right, then what do we want to do? We want to change the position of the paddle. So in order to do that, let's add some variables for the position of the paddle. So let's call this paddle x y position. Sorry, we only need x position because we're not going to be moving this paddle up and down, right? And we're going to start that off with 0. Sorry, actually we're not going to start that off with 0 because you can see that the paddle x position to begin with is not 0, but rather it is this value here, okay? And what we can actually do is we can cut that out and put that here. And here, instead of using that, we can just use paddle x position. Okay, so how's that? And just what we need to do is make sure that this event listener is coming after we declare our styles. Okay, so that just doesn't mess up the logic that we have now. And let's just save our code again, just because we've done a lot. Great. Okay, so now when we have an arrow right event, what we want to do is we want to move our paddle right. So basically, we just take paddle x position and let's do plus equals 3. So we'll move it 3 pixels right when the arrow is pressed down. And now we need to adjust the styling. So that would be paddle.style and left dot sorry, this should be in left, and it will be equal to paddle x position. Amazing. So let's test out that code. Run. Make sure to click on the window. Okay, make sure you're focused in here. And I click right. Okay, so I'm getting arrow right. Paddle position is not changing. So let's try and figure out why that is happening. So let's add, let's console here on the bottom. And we'll just console, let's say move. Okay, so let's run the code. Okay, so we're getting the move. That means we're entering this if statement. Let's console paddle x position. Okay, so let's run that. Okay, so paddle x position is changing, and what did we forget? Our good old pixels here. Okay, and let's try running the code again. Boom. Okay, so we have right movement on our paddle. Amazing. No left movement yet, which makes sense. Basically, what we're going to do is add the same conditions just for left. And it's important to do left and right and not if and else, because we have lots of keys on the keyboard and we only want the paddle to move for these 2 keys. So here it's going to be minus, and let's try that again. Moving right, moving left. Amazing. We have a moving paddle, we have a moving ball. Now the only thing that we need to do is tell the ball to continue going down if it doesn't hit the paddle, and to change direction only when it hits the paddle. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm first going to get rid of these console.logs so that we don't, so we have a clean console. And let's go down to our conditions for moving the ball. Okay, so when the ball is moving down, okay, this is not relevant when the ball is moving up. So only when the ball is moving down, okay, and if the ball is smaller than max y, okay, then we're going to want to check something, okay? So if, okay, if, and basically what we want to check is if the ball is between the edges of the paddle. So if the ball X position is is bigger than paddle X position, okay, that means the left side of the ball is bigger than the left side of the paddle, and okay, the right side, okay, so ball X position, okay, plus ball width. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm telling it that the ball has to be completely on the paddle. If the ball is even a little bit off the paddle, then it goes down, okay? And if that is smaller than paddle X position plus paddle width, okay, that basically is the left, the rightmost side of the paddle. And you see how useful it is here that we declared our constants in advance, because now if we wanted to change our game up a bit and we wanted to change one of these, we could just change it on the top and our whole code, would change appropriately. So, okay, so I added another if statement in here. Okay, so great. So if this is true, okay, then we want, so let's rethink the logic here for a second. So if our ball position is smaller than max y, no matter what, we're going to want to be executing this, okay, which basically tells the ball to continue going down. Okay, because if the ball is in the down direction and it hasn't hit the bottom yet, we're going to be going down no matter what. Okay, and in any other condition, okay, so if we're not doing that, okay, so let's end this if statement here, then let's put in an else. Okay, so if the y position is smaller than max y, keep going down. Then what we want to do here is add in our if statement. Okay, so in the case where it has reached the bottom, so let's add some I'm going to add some comments in here. So it's always good to add some comments. So ball not yet reached bottom. Okay, and here this else is ball reached bottom. Okay, so this if statement is for ball hit paddle. Okay, and then here we're going to have an else statement, which is for the case where the ball missed paddle. So when the ball hits the paddle, it's going to act like we told it to before. Okay, before we added the paddle to begin with, which is this else statement over here. Okay, which basically tells it to change direction and start going up. If it is not on the paddle, then we're going to want to behave like we haven't reached the bottom, and that is this. Okay, and what we're also going to want to do is let's console.log game over. Okay, just to tell us that you lost the game, your ball has gone beyond your paddle. And now we basically don't need all of this here. Okay. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so let's see where this if statement ends. Ball has not yet reached the bottom. Okay, then we have here one if, we have an else clause. Okay, this else is for the ball has reached the bottom. And here we have an if and an else. So let's add another, this closes the ball reach the bottom here. Okay, and here we have for the ball reaching the top. Okay, so this should be the else for this if statement. Okay, so let's add just one more over here. Great. Amazing. So now let's take a look at our code and see what happens. So, okay, my paddle has stopped moving, so that's not very good. And let's try. Oh, so I didn't press on the window probably. Yeah. Okay, that's where I. Let's try that again. So my paddle moves, and the ball changed direction. Now let's see what happens if my paddle is not there. Ball falls down, game over. So let's just fix that last little bug where the ball is kind of going through the paddle. So in order to do that, basically what we want to do is just, we want to change direction a little earlier. So ball reached the bottom, ball hit paddle, okay? So instead of using the ball Y position and max Y to measure where we test this, let's subtract the paddle height from max Y. So basically this whole testing if the ball reached the bottom will happen at this height of the top of the paddle. Okay, so let's try running that again. And okay, that did not work. And let's take a look at our code and see why that is happening. So max Y minus paddle height. Then the ball has not reached the bottom. If it is past that, then we should check if that is there. So let's try running the code again. I want to see what actually happens when the ball hits. So it's going through, and it's hitting really the very bottom of the screen. Okay, so what we didn't take into account here is actually the height of the ball itself. So let's subtract the ball height from here as well. Okay, let's try running that again. And boom. Okay, so the ball changes direction when we hit the paddle. Amazing. And the ball falls. So you saw that when the ball was getting to the right side, we had the same problem. So let's fix that as well, just because it's like visually not so beautiful. So that would be over here, max X, and we're just going to subtract from that the ball width. Okay, and again, we're flexible. So I change the ball width, and everything will still be working. Whoops, I missed the ball. There we go. Uh-oh, game over. Let's try that again. And you can also adjust the speeds. So that was actually something that I probably should have declared as a constant when we were getting started. For example, to here the plus minus 3, or even the speed here of the intervals, as well as the plus minus 3 here. These should all be declared as constants in the beginning, and that way you can adjust all the speeds. Maybe you can make different levels for your game, etc. So now that you made your game, congratulations. You made a very simple game in complete JavaScript. And now what I want to do is show you something pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over all our code. Command C, I'm going to save it. And I'm going to open a regular tab here. Okay, so we have Google. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open something called the developer tools. And this is something really important to know if you're going to be a developer. And I'm going to paste our code here in the console. Okay, if you're not on console, you should look for console up here. Go into the console, paste your code, and click enter. And you can see that this has basically overlaid our game on top of Google. Okay, and you can do this for any website. And let me just click here, and you can see moving our paddle. And let me try and hit it. And boom. So basically, because our game is pure JavaScript, it can be overlaid onto any website, and it doesn't really need HTML to work, which is one of the cool things with the way we built the game. And you can see now that the items are that our ball is moving behind everything here on Google. And we could probably tweak that in the JavaScript by changing some of the styling and the z-index and stuff like that. But the point of the tutorial is to basically give you a direction, and you can still kind of continue and develop things by yourself and fix things up and tweak things up. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to see more like this, please subscribe to our channel. Please like this video. Feel free to comment with different things that you would like to see tutorials for, and we'll be sure to make them for you. So have a great day and enjoy your coding.